More technical difficulties again. Spreaker lost connection. Welcome to part 2 of episode 22 of Taylor's Detroit Sports on Spreaker. I'm Taylor Phillips. I'm continuing reading the article written by Kyle Meinke about Detroit Lions defensive lineman Nick Fairley. Fairley did not respond to reporters who asked for comment as he left practice. C.J. Mosley was concerned about it. He said he felt like we were out-tempoed a little bit. They did a couple things that were a little awkward, and we hadn't seen all camp. They huddled really close to the ball, so by the time we got our calls, they were already ready. Mosley added that speaking for the group, we all want to impact the game a lot more, and that Mosley was just doing his job, repping in Sue's place and Dominican Sue's place, and that he doesn't know why. He doesn't worry about that. Just go in when they call him. Meinke writes, Fairley's body has been a sore spot with the club in the past. He did drop almost 30 pounds heading into minicamp, camp, but then put 10 of it right back on before training camp. The question is head coach Jim Caldwell comfortable with Fairley's weight? In part 1, I described the Tigers losing 11-6 and first place. They're now second place in the AL Central Division, behind the Royals. I discussed Verlander's injury, and I reported that Justin Miller, Ian Kroll, and Kevin Wheely have been called up, as well as Robbie Ray and Buck Farmer. Robbie Ray will start tonight at 7:05, and then Buck Farmer will make his major league debut at Comerica Park tomorrow, when the Tigers open up the second 2-game series of the 4-game home-and-home set with the Buckaroos, the Pittsburgh Pirates. Continuing on with the Fairley article, Caldwell quoted, "One of the things about Fairley, he's a big man. He can probably carry more weight than most people at his size because of his strength. He's working to get a comfortable weight, I think, and I think he's on his way there." That was, unquote. That wasn't exactly an answer to the question. Is that a yes? You can take it as you like, however you like. So, kind of between yes and no, I guess. Speaking of the Lions, they claimed wide receiver Conner Vernon from the Cincinnati Bengals and wide receiver Quintin Payton. Vernon, a former Justin Rogers writes on MLive.com, Vernon, a former Duke University standout, signed with the Oakland Raiders as an undrafted free agent in 2013. He's also had short stints with the Cleveland Browns and the Bengals. He's 6'1", weighs 200 pounds, and is the ACC's all-time Atlantic Coast Conference's all-time leader in receptions, receiving yards in consecutive games with at least one pass caught. As a senior in 2013, he hauled in 85 balls for 1,074 yards and 8 touchdowns. He's never appeared in a regular season NFL game, but he did have a 12-yard touchdown reception for the Bengals in the team's first preseason game last week. The Lions claimed Payton off waivers on July 29th before releasing him. He's 6'4" at 212 pounds, has intriguing size but showed inconsistent hands during practice and during the team's preseason win 13-12 over the Cleveland Browns at Ford Field. Payton was released minutes after practicing with the team on Monday. Now on to some Red Wings news. The Red Wings are still interested in bringing veteran right winger Daniel Alfredsson back for another year. According to Dana Wikiji from Fox Sports Detroit, as far as Red Wings general manager Ken Holland is concerned, his team is set as training camp approaches next month. The only addition the Wings are likely to make is re-signing forward Daniel Alfredsson. Holland quoted, "My take is we're probably going to try to do something with Alfie. He had a good year, had either 18 or 19 goals. I'll have to look it up on DetroitRedWings.com. In fact, I'll do that right now. Entering DetroitRedWings.com. And clicking on the roster under team. And I don't see Daniel Alfredsson on the roster anywhere. Let me type his name in the search slot. Oh, by the numbers. All right. He scored 18 goals and got 31 assists, totaling up to 49 points. By Bill Roos, the managing editor of DetroitRedWings.com. He's tied for second place with Johan. He tied for second place with Johan Franzen in game-winning goals with 4. And he became the 52nd player on December 19th in NHL history to reach the assist milestone with 700. He currently has 713 career assists. Third among active NHL stars with only New Jersey's Jaromir Jagr, 1,050, and San Jose's Joe Thornton, 852, leading the way. He collected 3 5-point games that he produced 3 3-point games during the regular season, which resulted in 5 victories for the Red Wings. 3 assists against the Flyers on October 12th and at Colorado on October 17th. His remaining triple-point night came in the fashion of 2 goals and an assist at the New York Islanders on November 29th in a 5-0 victory, and against Calgary December 19th in a 3-2 overtime win, when he got the game winner, beating Ramo with a one-timer on the power play, and against Pittsburgh on March 20th. He got another game-winning overtime goal with 0.4 of a second left on an on-man rush. He also scored, and those were actually the only 2 overtime goals that he got this season. and I already mentioned that. Back to the Fox Sports Detroit Alfredsson article. Holland continued, certainly I don't look at Alfie thinking he was going to play 82 games. When you got Gustav Nyquist and Tomas Tatar, Tomas Jurko, Luke Glendening, and Riley Shahan, if we can get a certain amount of games out of Alfredsson, we would feel he would be a real positive addition. But at the end of the day, I think he wants to come and skate, and we want to see him skate every day for 2-3 weeks, and then let's see how he feels. Alfredsson had 18 goals, 31 assists. I mentioned that before, in 68 games. He turns 42 in December. He missed some time because of back trouble last season. As far as some of the other players who dealt with injuries last season, Holland said he's hearing good things. Now, he added, now it's summertime. You always hear positive. Let's get to September. I am anticipating all those guys that were injured last year. He's been told... I've been told they're all healthy, they're all feeling great, they're all excited. I got my fingers crossed. Well, that, unquote, that's good. Holland also said he would be speaking to the agent for restricted free agent Danny DeKeyser later this week. The Wings will hold training camp at Center Ice Arena in Traverse City from September 19th through September 23rd. Tickets are still on sale at centerice.org. CENTREICE, centerice.org. That's on a Friday through a Tuesday next month. Training camp will include the second annual Training Camp Alumni and Celebrity Game on Saturday, September 20th. Now to some Pistons news. Austin Young reports in his Facebook group Detroit Sports. 55 minutes ago, Detroit Pistons restricted free agent Greg Monroe has been in limbo for a while. It's been complicated. Monroe recently refuted a report that the Pistons had offered him a 5-year, $60 million deal, and whatever they have offered him, he clearly doesn't think it's enough. To commit to the organization long term. If it comes down to it, he'll just sign a 1-year qualifying offer, according to the Detroit News' Vincent Goodwell. While the Pistons' big man has not pursued an offer sheet from another team, he has pursued sign-and-trade possibilities, and Monroe is definitely willing to take the 1-year qualifying offer worth $5.3 million from Detroit in order to ensure his unrestricted free agency next summer. A source familiar with Monroe's thinking told the Detroit News. Monroe reportedly doesn't have anything against the Pistons or new head coach, president of basketball operations, Stan Van Gundy. In fact, the source said Monroe likes Van Gundy and likes what he says, but added that Monroe needs proof of Van Gundy's vision. This is the only thing Monroe can do to put any sort of pressure on Detroit, so it's not surprising to see this report come out with the two sides at a standstill. It's not the first time this has been reported either. From Grantland's Zach Lowe at the beginning of free agency, multiple sources say Monroe's camp has made it known Monroe will sign the 1-year qualifying offer if Josh Smith remains on the roster. Monroe's camp denies that, and that kind of empty threat is not a typical from top restricted free agents. It's really their only form of leverage. You very rarely see a player's player of Monroe's caliber accepting a qualifying offer at this stage of his career. It would mean playing for way below market value and assuming the risk that comes along with the lack of a long-term deal. If he gets hurt next season or struggles in Van Gundy's system, it'd be on him. I'm not saying there's no way it happens, just that this is far from the ideal scenario, unquote. Tayron Nelson in the Facebook group Detroit Pistons fans posted an article about a trade rumor involving Greg Monroe to the Nuggets for Kenneth Farid. And that article is from Travelers Today. Greg Monroe for Kenneth Farid, sign and trade ideal for Pistons and Nuggets. Forward Greg Monroe and the Detroit Pistons have yet to settle their differences with regards to coming up with a new deal. According to the latest report, the big man shunned the Pistons' latest offer worth $60 million over 5 years after rejecting the previous 4-year, $58 million offer. Monroe, who averaged 15.2 points, 9 rebounds last season with the Pistons, hasn't signed a new contract up to this point of the free agency period. Although the Pistons have been aggressive in keeping their big man in the fold, the former Georgetown product seems to be not interested in staying further in Motown. The Pistons, Detroit Free Press writer Vince Ellis reported last week, quote, "The Pistons have moved from the initial 5-year, $60 million offer and an offer that's slightly better on a per-year basis than the 4-year, $54 million deal that Josh Smith signed last summer is on the table. But the offer to make him the highest-paid player on the roster hasn't brokered an agreement, and negotiations aren't ongoing," unquote. At 24 years old, Monroe is still years away from reaching his prime. However, he has already shown maturity in his game as an inside presence on both ends of the floor. His low post scoring and rebounding makes him one of the most coveted young big men in the league. That's why many teams have tried to reach him out with the Pistons for a trade, including the Indiana Pacers. According to Detroit sports radio panelist Matt Derry of WXYZ Channel 7 Sports Cave and weekday midday talk show host noon to 3 on Detroit Sports 105.1, the Pistons reportedly received a trade offer from the Pacers for Monroe. Indiana is reportedly using All-Star center Roy Hibbert as a trade bait in the negotiation. He tweeted, "Lots of chatter about Greg Monroe today. Pacers shopping Hibbert, and a source tells me they have called the Pistons about him. That's all I know," unquote. Hibbert has been on the trading block since the start of the offseason. Direly needing an offensive boost in the wake of Paul George's leg injury, the Pacers are apparently making a gamble by trading their best defensive player in Hibbert in exchange for the smooth low block operator in Monroe. However, Bleacher Report writer Stephen Cook believed the trade chatter involving Hibbert won't gain much traction because the Pistons are committed to groom Andre Drummond into an elite center. Acquiring Hibbert in a sign-and-trade would be a surplus for them unless Stan Van Gundy decides to move Drummond to the power forward position and form an impeccable defensive trio of Josh Smith, Drummond, and Hibbert. Kenneth Farid to the Pistons, they ask? Another option the Pistons should closely monitor is Kenneth Farad's situation with the Denver Nuggets. Ever since he landed a coach gig in Mile High, head coach Brian Shaw wanted a more polished low block score at the power forward position. Fairley, who is known as an up and down energy player, showed some improvement in his low post game. But it's not any near to Monroe's array of moves on the shaded line. Another factor to consider is Farad's contract situation. Next summer, he's going to hit the market as a restricted free agent, and many teams out there will try to snatch him by offering a bloated paycheck. Working out a sign-and-trade deal sending Monroe to Denver for Farad makes sense, as it gives Van Gundy a player who can produce the same numbers Monroe provides every night. For more NBA rumors, read more at Travelers Today. So that's the end of that article. Now finally to my CMU Chippewas. Their football team is selected 4th in the MAC West this year. The Mid-American Conference West Division, that is, by the poll of league media members at Ford Field in Detroit, home of the Detroit Lions. The Chippewas garnered 2 first-place votes and 67 points. Toledo, with 11 first-place votes and 114 points, was picked to win the West. Defending Marathon MAC football championship game winner Bowling Green was an overwhelming pick to finish atop the East Division. The Falcons, who returned 16 stars for a team that finished 10-14, garnered 18 first-place votes and 144 points. Akron was a distance second in the East with 114 points and 3 first-place votes. Defending West champion Northern Illinois was a close second to Toledo in the West Division with 110 points and 8 first-place votes. Ball State was third with 82 points, followed by the Chippewas. Western Michigan, 44 points, and Eastern Michigan with 24. Bowling Green was named on 11 ballots to win the 2014 Marathon MAC Championship game, which is scheduled for December 5th at Ford Field in Detroit. Toledo was named on 6 ballots. The Chippewas earned 2 championship nods, and Northern Illinois and Akron picked up 1 each. The Chippewas opened the 2014 season at home on Thursday, August 28th, with a non-league game against Chattanooga. Their MAC opener is Saturday, September 27th at Toledo. You can catch all CMU football games on the Fabiano Brothers Central Michigan Sports Network with Don Scheido, the play-by-play commentator, and Brock Gutierrez, the color analyst, on Mount Pleasant's flagship station for CMU sports, football and men's basketball, 95.3 CFX, WCFX-FM in Clare and Mount Pleasant, and also on locally in my area on 98.5 UPS, WUPS-FM, Houghton Lake, Mount Pleasant, Cadillac, Traverse City, and all in central and northern Michigan. So, and for the entire schedule of CMU football and the roster and all other CMU sports, go to cmuchippewas.com. So that's the last of episode 22. That's all I covered. Tonight, 7:05, Tigers at Pirates, Game 2 at PNC Park. Robbie Ray will get the nod on the mound for the Motor City Bengals. Still no word on Verlander's shoulder soreness MRI. You can catch tonight's game on Fox Sports Detroit, 97.1 The Ticket, WXYT in Detroit, FM and HD1. and the Detroit Tigers Radio Network, and on Tigers.com or MLB.com. And let's see here. And he'll take on Edinson Volquez, 9-7 with a 3.70 ERA. Robbie Ray is 1-1 with a 4.70 ERA. He pitched 6 shutout innings after one start this season against Minnesota on May 11th, the Twins. For Volquez, he allowed 1 hit and 7 shutout innings against the Miami Marlins on Thursday, but he hasn't fared well against the Tigers in 2 career starts, allowing 8 runs in 9 2/3 innings. So the Tides may turn tonight. Royals taking on the Athletics either tonight or today. I'm going to check. I'm going to check the score or the schedule rather. It is tonight at 8:10. John Lester at Jeremy Guthrie at Kauffman Stadium. John Lester is 12-7 and 2.44 total this season. Guthrie is 8-9 with a 4.35 ERA. I'm pulling for John Lester, and I'm pulling for Robbie Ray to have a better start, and I'm pulling for Ray to outpitch Volquez tonight. And I'm also pulling for the Tigers offense to keep improving. They scored 11 runs in their last 2 games. Hopefully they can keep increasing that number tonight. So that's it. That's it for part 2 of episode 22 and all of episode 22 as well as of Taylor's Detroit Sports on Spreaker. I'll talk to you later tonight for episode 23. TTFN, ta-ta for now.